You wait and wait for change, and still life looks the same. I tell you, miracles are not delayed. They are here. And with one word, you can open your hand and receive them in 24 hours. In this lesson, I will place in your hand the exact word that unlocks the subconscious and commands it to obey divine law. You will see why your mind often resists your good, how it tricks you into delay, and how this one word turns resistance into receptivity. You will learn how to use it with authority, how to avoid the traps of doubt, and how to set miracles in motion within a single day. This is not theory, it is law. And when you know the word, you will never again wait for miracles, for they will begin to wait for you. You may have prayed for years, only to feel your words fall into silence. You may have struggled and strained, only to see the door remain shut. You may have whispered affirmations and wondered, why do they not work for me? The reason is simple. The conscious mind stands as a guard, resisting, arguing, canceling the very decree you speak. But there is a higher law, and there is one word that bypasses the guard, slips past the arguments, and plants itself in the soil of your subconscious with irresistible power. Once planted, it bears fruit immediately. I have seen lives transformed overnight. I have seen debts dissolved, health restored, and supply appear in less than 24 hours when this word was spoken. And today, I will show you how to use it for yourself. In this teaching, I will take you step by step into the secret of this word. I will show you why the mind resists, why your past affirmations may have failed, and how this single word overcomes that resistance. I will give you stories of those who proved it, who spoke the word in faith and saw the miracle appear the very next day. I will show you how to plant it in the subconscious, how to water it with faith, and how to guard it until the harvest appears. And before we close, I will give you a decree you can speak tonight so that within 24 hours, you may have your own proof of the law. Stay with me, for the miracle you have been waiting for is nearer than you think, and one word will bring it into your hand. Here's something most people completely miss. The greatest obstacle to your miracle is not the lack of money in your purse, nor the sickness in your body, nor the mountain of debt that stares you down. It is your own conscious mind. The conscious mind sits at the gate like a suspicious guard, examining every word you speak, every prayer you utter, every affirmation you declare, and then questioning, resisting, and canceling it with doubt. You say, "I am rich," and the guard mutters back, "But the bills are unpaid." You declare, "I am healed," and the guard sneers. But you still feel pain. You affirm, "It is done," and the guard scoffs, "I see no evidence." Day after day, the conscious mind stands watch, blocking the entrance to your subconscious, the fertile soil where miracles take root. Until you understand this guard, until you learn how to bypass him, your words fall like seeds upon stone. They never take hold, and you wonder why nothing grows. The stakes could not be higher, because the subconscious never argues. It accepts whatever is impressed upon it, whether true or false, whether spoken in faith or in fear. If you say, "I am always unlucky," the subconscious writes it down and plays it back as your life. If you say, "I always prosper," it records that too and sends abundance into your path. The conscious mind pretends to be your protector, but in truth, it often becomes your jailer, locking you into the visible and refusing to let the invisible through. That is why you may pray for years, and still nothing seems to happen. It is not because heaven is deaf, but because the guard at the gate has stopped your words from reaching the soil of power. Let me tell you a story. A man once lived in dread of a disease he had only read about. His conscious mind rehearsed it day and night. He imagined the symptoms, spoke of it often, and feared it constantly. Though reason told him he was healthy, the subconscious heard only the record of his words and pictures. In time, the very disease he dreaded appeared in his body. The guard at the gate had not protected him. It had delivered him straight into the bondage he feared. Another woman laughed and joked for years. "One day I'll end up in the poorhouse." She thought it harmless, even amusing. But the subconscious took it as law, and one day she found herself staring at the very condition she had mocked. The guard at the gate had faithfully ushered her words of fear and jest straight into manifestation. Do you see the danger? The conscious mind argues against faith, but it never argues against fear. It questions your affirmations, but it never questions your complaints. It doubts your prayer, but it never doubts your dread. That is why so many lie bound to lack, to sickness, to delay. They have let the guard decide what enters, and the guard favors fear over faith. But here is the good news. There is a way to bypass the guard. There is a word, simple yet powerful, that slips past the arguments, quiets the doubts, and plants itself directly into the subconscious, where it begins to bear fruit at once. This word tricks the mind into silence, and in that silence the seed takes root. When you know this word, you are no longer at the mercy of the guard, you are master of the gate. So I ask you, are you ready to stop wrestling with reason? Are you ready to bypass the endless arguments of doubt? Are you ready to plant a seed that will bear fruit within 24 hours? Then stay with me, for I will show you how the subconscious ledger records every decree, and how this one word writes your miracle in bold letters that cannot be erased. Now that you see the conscious mind as the guard at the gate, let us step inside the treasury it tries to protect. For the subconscious is the ledger, the great bookkeeper of life, and every word you speak is written there in ink. In the next part, I will show you how this ledger works, and why every debt and every credit of your speech must one day be paid. What I am about to tell you may seem simple, yet it is the very root of all demonstration, the explanation of why some people rise to riches while others sink into lack, why some are healed while others remain bound, why some walk in freedom while others stumble in chains. It is this: the subconscious mind is the great bookkeeper of your life. It keeps an unerring ledger of every word you have spoken, every thought you have indulged, every image you have entertained, and it pays out into your experience the exact balance of that record. It does not question whether the words were spoken in jest or in earnest, whether the thought was a passing fancy or a deep conviction, whether the image was wanted or unwanted. It simply records and obeys. And what is recorded must one day be expressed, unless you erase it with a stronger decree. Think of the phonograph record, how faithfully it reproduces every sound, every cough, every laugh, every word. Set the needle upon it, and the record plays back exactly what was etched upon its surface. The subconscious is such a record, and your life is the music it plays. If you have impressed it with fear, it will play fear. If you have impressed it with failure, it will play failure. If you have impressed it with lack, it will play lack. And just as surely, if you impress it with health, it will play health. If you impress it with abundance, it will play abundance. If you impress it with joy, it will play joy. The subconscious is impartial, unemotional, without preference. It does not choose the song, it only plays back what you have cut into its grooves. I knew a woman once who came to me in despair. "Why do I always meet disappointment?" she cried. "Why does everything turn against me?" As she spoke, I heard the old record playing. She had told herself this story again and again, until it had carved a groove in her subconscious. The bookkeeper had written down disappointment, and so her life could only pay out in disappointment. I said to her, "You must break the record. You must erase the old entry and open a new account. Declare aloud, I now smash and demolish every untrue record in my subconscious mind." They return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from nothing and have no power. I now make new and perfect records through the Christ within, records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. She obeyed, and soon her life turned like a wheel into new paths. The old music stopped, the new melody began, and she found herself walking in success and joy. Perhaps you, too, are living by an old record. Perhaps the voice of a parent who once said, "You will never succeed," still plays within you. Perhaps the memory of a failure still whispers, "It will happen again." Perhaps the story you tell yourself every time a bill arrives, every time a door shuts, every time a dream falters, is carving the same groove deeper and deeper. But hear me, those grooves are not eternal. They can be broken, they can be smashed, they can be replaced with new and perfect records. For the subconscious, though faithful, is also obedient, and it will always yield to the strongest impression. So begin today to speak only what you want recorded. Do not let your subconscious ledger be filled with debts of fear, resentments, complaints, and doubts. Fill it with credits of faith, blessings, thanksgiving, and praise. Say aloud, I am divinely supplied, I walk in abundance. My every need is met now, under grace, in perfect ways. Write that into the book of your subconscious, and soon the balance will tip in your favor. For the law of the ledger is certain: what you speak is written, and what is written must one day be lived. And now that you understand the subconscious as the great ledger, recording every word and paying it out without question, we must look at how impressions are made upon it. For it is not logic that moves the subconscious, but imagination. The mind may argue for hours, but a single picture can override all its reasoning. In the next part, I will show you how imagination impresses the subconscious faster than logic, and how this truth is the very reason why miracles can appear in 24 hours. Here is something that most of the world has never learned, and because they have never learned it, they remain bound in cycles of struggle and delay. They imagine that their lives are directed by reason, by careful plans, by calculations and arguments, and yet they find that reason so often fails them. Why? Because the subconscious does not move by reason at all. It is not persuaded by debate, it is not swayed by logic, it does not respond to analysis. The subconscious is moved by impression. It is ruled by pictures, by feelings, by the images and emotions you allow to settle in your soul. And here lies the great secret. A single vivid impression, charged with emotion, will override 1,000 words of reasoning. The conscious mind may argue all day, "I am safe." But if the subconscious has been impressed with a picture of danger, then the body will tremble, the heart will race, and the experience of danger will appear. The conscious mind may repeat 100 times, "I am prosperous," but if the subconscious is filled with images of lack, then doors will remain shut and supply will be delayed. The impression is stronger than the argument. The picture is mightier than the words spoken without feeling. This is why Jesus spoke so often in parables. He knew that a story paints a picture, and a picture impresses faster than any chain of reasoning. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field," he gave not an argument but an image, and the subconscious of every listener received it. When he said, "The walls of Jericho fell with a shout," he painted a scene of triumph, and that image, impressed upon the heart, becomes a pattern for victory in life. We are moved not by logic but by vision, and once the subconscious has accepted the vision, it sets the whole machinery of life in motion to bring it into form. I recall a student who lived in constant fear of poverty. Though she affirmed daily, "I am prosperous," she also pictured herself without money, imagined herself turned away, saw herself begging for help. The affirmations were words only, the images were vivid, and the subconscious always obeys the stronger impression. Her life remained bound in lack. I told her, "Do not only say the words, 'See yourself walking in abundance.' Picture your purse filled, your home furnished, your body clothed in beauty. Feel the joy of it as though it were already so." She obeyed, and soon the tide turned, because the picture overpowered the argument, and the subconscious took its new command. This is the great power of impression. It does not wait, it does not delay, it begins at once to rearrange the outer world to match the inner image. That is why miracles can come within 24 hours. A word spoken with feeling, charged with faith, paints a vivid picture upon the subconscious, and the subconscious accepts it as fact. It does not say, "This cannot be done in so short a time." It does not argue about the odds. It simply acts, drawing to you people, circumstances, and opportunities that fulfill the image you have impressed. So I ask you, what pictures are you carrying in your soul? Are you still rehearsing images of defeat, of sickness, of empty purses, of closed doors? Or are you impressing images of victory, of health, of overflowing abundance, of doors flung wide? Remember this: the subconscious is always at work, and it is always bringing forth what has been most vividly impressed upon it. Fill it with the wrong image, and the wrong harvest will appear. Fill it with the right image, and miracles will manifest swiftly, sometimes in a single day. Therefore, learn to speak not only with your lips, but with your imagination. When you say, "I am supplied," see yourself supplied. When you declare, "It is done," feel the thrill of it already accomplished. When you affirm, "My miracle appears now," picture it in your hand, picture yourself rejoicing in it, picture others marveling at it. That picture will pass the guard at the gate, slip straight into the subconscious, and set the law in motion. And when that happens, nothing in heaven or earth can prevent the miracle from appearing. And now, having seen how impressions override logic, we come to the secret of this teaching, the trick of the word. For there is one word, simple yet powerful, that plants itself as an impression upon the subconscious without resistance, that carries with it the vibration of completion, and that produces miracles within 24 hours. Let me now show you how this one word tricks the mind into silence and commands the law into action. This next part changed everything for me, and if you take it into your spirit, it will change everything for you as well. We have seen the guard at the gate, always suspicious, always questioning, always arguing against faith. We have seen the ledger of the subconscious, faithfully recording whatever is impressed upon it. We have seen the law of impression, that the subconscious is not swayed by reasoning but by pictures and feelings. And now I reveal to you the secret that ties it all together. There is one word, simple and short, that slips past the guard, impresses the subconscious with finality, and sets the law into motion at once. It tricks the conscious mind into silence, for it has no ground on which to argue. The word is this: done. When you say, "It is done," you end the argument. You cut off the questions, you silence the guard, for what can reason say against a thing already completed? When you say, "I will be supplied," the guard argues, but when? But how? But from where? When you say, "I will be healed," the guard mutters, but the pain is still here. When you say, "One day my dream will come," the guard sneers. But today it is not. Yet when you declare with boldness, "It is done," the guard falls silent, for it has no ground on which to stand. The subconscious accepts the decree as fact, and the universe rushes to arrange the evidence. That is the trick of the word. It bypasses the arguments, plants the seed as finished, and compels the harvest to appear. I have used this word myself, and I have watched miracles unfold within 24 hours. A woman once came to me in anguish over a debt due the very next day. She had no means, no channel, no hope in sight. I said to her, "We will not plead, we will not beg, we will not hope. We will declare, 'It is done.' The money comes now, under grace, in perfect ways." She repeated it with me until her whole being felt the vibration of completion. That night she slept in peace for the first time in weeks. And in the morning, through channels she never could have imagined, the exact sum appeared. The guard at the gate had been silenced, the subconscious had been impressed, and the law had answered without delay. Another student longed for her right work, but every effort seemed blocked. She kept saying, "I hope something comes. I wish I knew what to do. Maybe one day I'll find my place." I told her, "You are postponing your good with every word. Tonight, instead of hoping, say, 'It is done. My perfect work is now manifest. I give perfect service for perfect pay.'" She obeyed, and within a week, the position she had dreamed of opened for her. She had not forced it, she had sealed it. The trick of the word had carried her beyond hope into possession. Do you see the power of this? Hope places your good always in the future. Fear places your evil always in the future. But faith places your good in the present, and nothing declares faith so perfectly as "It is done." That is why Jesus, when his work on the cross was complete, cried, "It is finished," not "I hope it will succeed," not "perhaps it will come to pass," but "It is finished." That word echoed through eternity and sealed the demonstration for all time. So I ask you, what is the thing you have been chasing, postponing, delaying, hoping for, worrying about? Tonight, instead of wishing, declare, "It is done." Speak it with authority, speak it with joy, speak it until you feel the vibration of completion. Say, "It is done. My debts are paid. It is done, my body is whole. It is done, my dream is manifest. It is done, my supply flows now." And then rest, knowing that the seed has been planted, the word has been recorded, the law has been set into motion. The harvest must appear, and it can appear within 24 hours. Transition to Section 2. Now that you know the trick of the word and how it silences the guard to plant the seed of faith, you must prepare to receive. For to say, "It is done," without making room is like digging no ditch before the rain. The blessing will fall, but where shall it flow? In the next section, I will show you the law of expectancy, how to act, how to prepare, how to create the channels so that when the miracle comes, it has a place to land. Here's something most people completely miss. They think faith is only a matter of words, a whisper and prayer. a sentence repeated over and over, but true faith is always proven by action. Faith is not still, it moves. Faith is not silent, it prepares. Faith behaves as though the thing desired is already here, even when every appearance declares the opposite. When you say, "It is done," you must then act as though it is done. Otherwise, your words are hollow, and the subconscious knows it. To speak completion but live as though you are still waiting is to divide your house against itself, and a house divided cannot stand. The law will not work for the double-minded, but it will hasten for the one whose word and deed are in harmony. I once counseled a woman facing what seemed an impossible lawsuit. She owed $3,000, due at once, and she had not a penny with which to pay. Her lips trembled as she said, "Florence, I believe spirit is my supply," yet her whole manner was one of defeat. I said to her, "Then prove it. Show by your action that you believe." She gasped, for she had expected some hidden formula, not the simple demand of faith in motion. I told her, "Take me to lunch. Spend from the place of abundance, not from the place of lack." She obeyed with fear and trembling, but she obeyed. And the very next day, a relative who had not thought of her in years provided the exact sum. Faith had spoken the word, but faith had also acted, and action opened the door for the miracle to arrive. This is the pattern you must follow. Do not only say, "It is done," demonstrate that it is done. Set the table before the meal appears. Lay out the garment before the wedding is announced. Write the thank you note before the gift arrives. When you take the step in faith, you create the channel for the unseen to flow into the seen. Spirit will never leave a prepared place empty. The universe abhors a vacuum, and when you act in expectancy, that vacuum must be filled. So I ask you, what is your action of faith? What simple deed can you take today that proves you believe the word you have spoken? Do not despise the small act, for it is the signal flare that calls down the miracle. Buy the token, prepare the space, set your life in order as though your prayer were already answered, for it is. And the law delights to prove it to the one bold enough to act first. But let me warn you, while faith hastens the supply, fear delays it. Many speak the right words, even take the first steps, but fear creeps back in, rehearsing failure, picturing disaster, and digging ditches for calamity instead of blessing. In the next part, I will show you why fear always delays, and how you can silence it so that your miracle flows without hindrance. This next truth may sound strange to the ears of reason, but it explains why so many people pray and prepare, and yet their good seems always to tarry on the way. Faith is swift, fear is slow. Faith clears the channel, fear clogs it. Faith hastens the miracle into visibility, fear drags its feet and pushes the blessing into some far-off tomorrow. Faith says, "It is done, and I rejoice now." Fear whispers, "But what if it does not happen? What if it fails? What if it comes too late?" And the moment you let those whispers take root, the law of supply hesitates, for it will never override your belief. The universe will wait as long as you insist on delay. It will never force its abundance upon the soul that clings to fear. I once counseled a man who cried out for a large sum of money to meet a pressing obligation. With his lips he said, "I believe God is my supply." But I looked into his eyes and saw them filled with dread. I asked him what thoughts filled his nights, and he admitted, "All night I imagine myself ruined. I rehearse the words I would say if I cannot pay. I picture the shame of it, the collapse of my affairs." And I said to him, "Can you not see? You are preparing for calamity. You are digging ditches for disaster instead of supply. Spirit cannot fill such ditches with blessing, for they have been marked out for ruin. Until he erased those inner rehearsals and replaced them with visions of triumph, his supply was delayed. The law was not denying him, it was simply waiting for him to stop, demanding disaster. Fear wears many masks. It calls itself prudence, preparation, foresight. A woman says, "I must save for a rainy day," and she has already invited the storm. A man says, "I must set something aside in case of sickness," and he has already opened the door for illness to enter. These are not wise provisions, they are fearful prophecies. And the subconscious, ever faithful, will take the prophecy and bring it to pass. When the storm comes, when the sickness arrives, they sigh, "I knew it would happen." Yes, they knew it, and in knowing, they created it. So I tell you, fear delays because it creates its own false harvest, and the soul cannot reap both fear and faith at the same time. One must be uprooted for the other to flourish. Begin today to cast out fear as soon as it whispers. Replace it at once with faith. If fear says, "You will not have enough," declare, "My supply is endless, my purse is full, my miracle appears now." If fear says, "What if the answer is too late?" declare, "God is never too late, never too soon, but always on time." If fear says, "It will fail," declare, "It is done, it is finished. It cannot fail." Speak until the vibration of faith drowns out the muttering of fear. Remember this: the subconscious is impressionable, not reasonable. It will accept whatever picture is most vivid, whatever word is most often repeated, whatever emotion is most deeply felt. If fear impresses it, fear delays the good. If faith impresses it, faith hastens the good. You hold the choice, moment by moment, word by word, picture by picture. Will you prepare for disaster or prepare for demonstration? Will you rehearse defeat or rehearse victory? Will you dig shallow ditches of doubt or deep ditches of expectancy? Choose faith, cast out fear. Declare that your good is here, that your miracle is already accomplished, that your blessing is already visible. The universe will answer swiftly, for the law always hastens to the call of faith, and it always waits in silence when fear is given the floor. And now let us look at the great multiplier of faith, the force that not only hastens supply but multiplies it beyond measure: gratitude. Gratitude turns the little into much, the few dollars into thousands, the seed into the harvest. In the next part, I will show you why thanksgiving spoken in advance is the fastest path to miracles, and how to use it to see results in a single day. Here's something that most people overlook, and because they overlook it, they struggle for years with empty purses and unanswered prayers. They imagine gratitude is only a polite response after the blessing has arrived. They think thanksgiving belongs at the end of the meal, not before the table is set. But true gratitude is not a reaction, it is a creation. Gratitude is the voice of faith, the living proof that you believe your prayer is already answered, your harvest already ripe, your miracle already in hand. And the law cannot resist gratitude, for gratitude is joy made audible, and joy is the highest vibration of faith. The moment you give thanks in advance, you have declared to the universe, "I already see my good, I already feel my supply, I already possess my miracle." That declaration multiplies what you hold until it grows beyond measure. I once counseled a woman who had only $8 left to her name. Her face was clouded with fear as she asked, "What can I do with this?" I said to her, "Do not curse it, do not despise it, do not call it little, bless it. Thank God for it, as though it were thousands. See it drawing to itself riches from every side. Say aloud, 'I bless this money,' and it multiplies. It is divinely magnetized. It fills my purse to overflowing, under grace, in perfect ways." She obeyed, and within days, unexpected channels opened, and she received thousands of dollars. The 8 had multiplied into abundance, not because of arithmetic, but because of gratitude. Do you see the principle? What you bless increases, what you curse decreases. If you complain over your money, calling it never enough, it will shrink in your hands. If you bless it, thanking God for it as though it were already multiplied, it will expand until it astonishes you. The same is true for your work, your body, your relationships, your opportunities. Bless them, and they will flourish. Curse them, and they will wither. The law is exact. Gratitude is the magnet of increase, complaint the poison of decrease. Think of the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. He did not look at the loaves and fishes and say, "This is not enough." He lifted them to heaven and gave thanks. And the loaves multiplied, and the fishes increased, until there was more than enough for all, with baskets left over. The pattern is eternal. Give thanks for the little, and the little becomes much. Refuse to give thanks, and the much turns to little. So I ask you, what are you saying over what you hold today? Are you sighing over your bank balance, saying this is nothing? Or are you blessing it, saying, "I thank God for this money. It is crammed, jammed, and overflowing with supply. It is multiplying even now"? Are you grumbling over your home, your work, your body? Or are you blessing them, saying, "I rejoice in this home, in this work, in this body, and I give thanks for the greater good already on its way"? Your gratitude or your complaint decides whether your supply multiplies or diminishes. Begin today to make gratitude your constant language. Speak it in the morning, speak it in the night, speak it whenever fear tries to whisper lack. Thank God before the blessing appears, and the blessing will come rushing to meet your thanksgiving. For gratitude multiplies quickly, and those who practice it live in continual increase. And now, I will give you a living example of this principle in action. The story of a woman who bought blankets for an apartment she did not yet have. The world mocked her for her foolishness, but gratitude and expectancy turned her blankets into the proof of her miracle. Let me tell you her story now. What I am about to share may sound foolish to the reasoning mind, but it is the very heart of expectancy in action. Faith is always extravagant to those who live by appearances, because faith prepares in advance, even when there is not one shred of visible evidence. Faith digs the ditch before there is a cloud in the sky. Faith sets the table before the food is cooked. Faith lays out the gown before the invitation has come. And here is the story of a woman who proved this law through something as simple as a pair of blankets. It was in a season when apartments in New York were scarce, when every building had a waiting list, and hundreds clamored for a single room. This woman longed for her right apartment, but all the voices around her said it was impossible. Her friends shook their heads and said, "You will never find one. You must put your furniture in storage and give up." She refused to accept their verdict. She said, "You need not pity me. I am divinely guided. My apartment is already prepared for me, and I will have it in perfect ways." She came to me for treatment, and I spoke the word over her. Infinite Spirit, open the way for the right apartment. It is hers now, under grace and in perfect ways. Soon after, she felt strongly impressed to buy blankets. At once, fear whispered, "Do not be foolish. You may never get an apartment, and then the blankets will mock you." But she caught the lie and answered with faith, "I will prove my expectancy by buying the blankets. I will show heaven that I am ready." And so she bought them joyfully, blessing them, thanking God for the bed that was already waiting for them. Not long after, the very apartment she desired appeared, though there were over 200 applicants for it. Against all odds, it was given to Azire, her, and when she laid those blankets on her new bed, she knew they were more than coverings. They were symbols. They were her ditch dug before the rain. They were her faith made visible. They were her miracle in cloth and color, the proof that she had dared to prepare before she could see. Do you see the lesson? The blankets were not chance, they were prophecy. They declared louder than any words, "I believe. I expect. I am ready." And the universe never leaves such preparation empty. Spirit rushed to fill the space she had made, and her demonstration was perfect. So I ask you now, what is your blanket? What is the thing you can do today, though it looks foolish to the world, that will prove you expect your miracle? Is it setting a place at the table for the guest you know will arrive? Is it clearing a shelf for the abundance you know is coming? Is it packing your bag for the journey you know is paid for? Whatever it is, do it with joy. Do it with thanksgiving. Do it as though you already stand in the apartment of your dreams. For when you act in faith, the supply must follow. And just as blankets prepared a home, so did a simple trunk prepare a man for a voyage across the sea. To reason, it looked like folly, but to faith it was the surest prophecy. Let me tell you now how a man bought a trunk before he had a ticket, and how that trunk carried him straight into his demonstration. Now let me give you another witness to the same law. A story so vivid that it will live in your memory long after these words are finished. It is the story of a man whose heart longed to travel abroad, to walk foreign streets, to see distant lands, to fill his soul with new horizons. Yet to every appearance, such a dream was impossible. He had no money for a ticket, no friends to sponsor him, no clear plan for how he might cross the sea. Reason mocked him, telling him to be content with what he had, to forget the voyage, to stay at home. But faith whispered a different message. Prepare, for your journey is already arranged. Act as though it is done. So the man did something that the world called foolish. He went out and bought a trunk. Not a battered old chest that spoke of resignation, but a new and splendid trunk, bright and bold, with a red band circling it like the sash of a victorious soldier. When his friends saw it, they laughed. They said, "What folly, you have no ticket, no voyage planned, no means to travel. Why waste your money on a trunk?" But he smiled and said nothing, for he knew what they did not know, that the trunk was not a purchase of vanity, but an act of prophecy. The trunk was his blanket, his ditch dug before the rain. It was the proof of his expectancy, the visible sign of his invisible decree. Day after day, as he looked at the trunk, his imagination grew vivid. He saw himself standing on the deck of the ship, the salt air on his face, the sound of the gulls in his ears. He saw himself arriving in foreign ports, opening his trunk in a room far from home, unpacking it with joy. And as these impressions filled his subconscious, the law went into motion. The ledger recorded, "This man is traveling abroad." The universe rearranged itself to fulfill the vision, and soon, as swiftly as night follows day, the supply appeared. A channel opened, money was provided, the ticket was purchased, and the voyage became a fact. The trunk, once mocked as folly, was vindicated as prophecy. Do you see the principle? The trunk was not a gamble, it was a decree. It was the outward sign of an inward faith. By buying it, he proved he believed. By preparing for the journey, he compelled the journey to appear. For the universe never leaves a prepared place empty. The moment you act in faith, heaven begins to fill the vacuum. So I ask you now, what trunk must you buy? What act of faith must you take, though reason mocks and friends scoff? Is it the purchase of a tool for the business you know will come? Is it the preparation of a room for the guest you know will arrive? Is it the setting aside of clothes for the life you know is yours? Whatever it is, do it boldly, do it joyfully, do it without fear, for it is not folly, it is prophecy. And as surely as the trunk carried that man to foreign lands, so will your act of expectancy carry you into your miracle. Transition to Section 3. Now we have seen how faith prepares, how gratitude multiplies, how expectancy makes room for supply. But there are still times when people act, prepare, bless, and expect, and yet their good does not come. Why? Because unseen walls block the flow, walls of resentment, of fear, of old records playing the same old tune. In the next section, I will show you how to break those hidden walls, so that nothing stands between you and the miracle that is already yours. Here is a truth that pierces deeper than most are willing to admit. Many souls have spoken the right words, prepared in faith, blessed their small supply, even taken steps of expectancy, and still, they find their miracle delayed. They dig the ditch, but the rain does not come. They buy the blankets, but the apartment remains out of reach. They set the trunk in the corner, but no ship appears on the horizon, and they cry, "Why, when I have done all I know, does nothing move?" The answer is often this: resentment has built a wall, and no good can flow through it. Resentment is a poison of the soul, a toxin that seeps into every channel, hardens the heart, clouds the vision, and blocks the law from doing its perfect work. You cannot bless while cursing in secret. You cannot receive while envying another's portion. You cannot walk in freedom while dragging chains of bitterness. I knew a woman who envied the gift her friend had received. Outwardly she smiled and said all the right words, but inwardly she cried, "Why should she have it, and not I?" And so, though she prayed and affirmed and waited, her own good was shut out by her own resentment. I gave her a simple affirmation to dissolve the poison. What God has done for others, He now does for me and more. There is no competition in divine mind. My blessing is secure, my supply is sure, and nothing can take it from me. She spoke it again and again until the bitterness melted, until she could bless her friend's prosperity as though it were her own. And when the wall was gone, her own good rushed in, and she received not only what she had envied, but something greater. The law answered at once, for it had been waiting only for her forgiveness. Resentment takes many forms. It may appear as envy of a neighbor's wealth, or bitterness toward a family member, or a grievance held against an employer, or even a quiet resentment against life itself. You may say, "It is nothing, I hardly think of it," but the subconscious thinks of it constantly, and it builds the wall higher every day. Until you forgive fully, until you can release the person, the memory, the hurt, and bless it into the hands of God, your good remains outside the gate. So let me ask you, whom are you resenting? Who rises in your mind with a sting, with bitterness, with envy? Is there a face that darkens your thought, a memory that closes your heart? That is your Jericho wall, and until it falls, you cannot pass into your promised land. But here is the remedy. Forgiveness is the dynamite that crumbles resentment. Blessing is the shout that topples the wall. Speak aloud, "I fully and freely forgive everyone. I loose them and let them go. I bless them into their highest good. What God has done for others, He now does for me and more. Say it until your heart softens, until you can truly bless where once you envied. When that happens, the wall will crack, the stones will tumble, and the channel will flow again. Do not cling to resentment. It hurts no one so much as it hurts you. The one you envy may be sleeping peacefully while you toss in bitterness. The one you resent may be prospering while you remain in lack. Release them, forgive them, bless them. For the law of life is generous, and your portion is secure. No one can rob you of what is yours by divine right, and nothing you envy can be withheld once you have cleared the wall of resentment. And yet resentment is not the only wall. There is another, darker still, that holds countless souls in bondage, the wall of fear. Fear is simply faith turned upside down. Faith in evil instead of good. Faith in disaster instead of deliverance. In the next part, I will show you how fear becomes a fortress of delay and how to tear it down so that miracles may flow freely. This next truth may sound severe, but it is the law. Fear is not weakness alone. Fear is faith. It is faith turned upside down. Faith misapplied. Faith in the power of evil instead of the certainty of good. Fear is a belief in disaster, and belief of any kind is creative. The same law that brings abundance to the one who believes in abundance brings calamity to the one who believes in calamity. The subconscious does not care whether your faith is bright or dark. It only knows to bring forth what has been impressed upon it. That is why fear is so deadly, for it paints pictures more vivid than logic, and those pictures lodge in the subconscious like seeds that cannot help but sprout. A man may affirm wealth 100 times with his lips, but if in his heart he pictures poverty and speaks constantly of ruin, the subconscious will obey the stronger impression and his life will pay out in want. I knew a man who lived in dread of a rare disease. He studied its symptoms, spoke of it to his friends, feared every ache and pain as though it were the beginning. Though reason told him it was absurd, though the odds were against it, the subconscious heard only his pictures of disease, his constant rehearsal of illness. In time, he attracted the very condition he dreaded, and it carried him to his grave. He had believed more in sickness than in health, more in loss than in life, and the law, impartial and exact, brought him the harvest of his fear. Another student of mine was a habitual worrier. He confessed, "Florence, I cannot help but expect the worst. I live as though disaster is just around the corner." I gave him a simple phrase, "Why worry? It will probably never happen." He laughed at the lightness of it, but he repeated it faithfully whenever fear rose. The humor in it broke the spell, and little by little the habit of fear dissolved. Soon his affairs straightened themselves, his health improved, and he found himself living in peace. The law had not changed, he had changed the direction of his faith. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. A woman says, "I must save for sickness," and she has already carved the channel for sickness to flow. A man says, "I must be ready for the worst," and the worst comes running to his door. These are not precautions, they are prophecies, and the subconscious, faithful bookkeeper that it is, records them as orders to be filled. Then, when the trouble comes, the fearful one sighs, "I knew it," never realizing that his knowing was his undoing. So I ask you now, what are you fearing? What images do you entertain in the secret chambers of your heart? Do you picture yourself sick, ruined, abandoned, defeated? Do you rehearse the words you will speak when failure strikes? Do you plan your excuses in advance? If so, you are planting seeds of calamity, and the subconscious is already at work to bring them into form. Cast them out now. Replace every dark picture with a vision of light. Declare aloud, "I walk in the light of divine protection. No evil can befall me, no loss can touch me, no delay can bind me. God is my shield, my fortress, my supply, and I am safe." Speak it until your heart is calm, until the fear dissolves, until you feel yourself standing on solid ground. For remember this, fear delays because it creates its own false harvest, and you cannot reap both fear and faith at once. You must choose which you will plant, and whichever seed you plant will surely bear fruit. Choose faith. Choose life. Choose abundance. For fear is faith in evil, but true faith is trust in the eternal good, and the good is always stronger. But even when resentment is dissolved and fear is cast out, there may still remain another wall, an old song playing endlessly in the background, a record of failure, a groove cut so deep into the subconscious that it repeats itself, no matter what new words are spoken. In the next part, I will show you how to smash those old records and write new ones, so that your life may sing a new song of victory. Now let us speak of another wall, one that hides not in the open bitterness of resentment nor in the quivering shadow of fear, but in the quiet grooves of memory itself. This wall is made of old records, old patterns, old stories impressed upon the subconscious and played back into life again and again like a phonograph needle stuck in the same sorrowful refrain. Many wonder why, even after they affirm new truths, they still seem to repeat the old experiences, new jobs that collapse like the old, new relationships that sour in the same way, new ventures that fail in the same pattern. It is because the subconscious still carries the old records, etched so deeply that they drown out the new song, and until those records are smashed, the past will continue to replay itself as the present. The subconscious is faithful, but it is not creative on its own. It does not choose what to play. It only repeats what has been recorded. If in childhood you were told again and again, "You never succeed," that phrase may still spin within you today, replaying itself in your affairs. If you often said in jest, "I'll probably end up poor," that record may still be humming in the background, creating scenes of lack. If you once suffered defeat and rehearsed it in thought and speech, the groove may still be cut, and the same defeat may rise again and again. Until the record is shattered, the song cannot change. But here is the good news: no record is eternal. Every false impression can be broken. Every untrue groove can be smashed. The spoken word is the hammer, and faith is the force that swings it. I give my students this decree. I now smash and demolish every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from nothing and have no power. I now make new and perfect records, through the Christ within me, records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. When this is spoken aloud, not once but persistently, with conviction and joy, the old grooves begin to crumble, the old records shatter, and the subconscious receives a new song. I recall a student who came to me weeping, saying, "Every time I try to prosper, I lose what I gain. Every new door that opens soon shuts." I said to her, "You are living by an old record of loss. Break it now with your word." She obeyed, speaking the decree daily, and within weeks, her affairs turned. Opportunities stayed open, money remained, and her life began to sing a new melody of permanence and abundance. The old record had been smashed, and a new one written. So I ask you, what records are still spinning in your life? Do you hear the faint refrain of failure, the haunting melody of sickness, the recurring song of delay? Then speak the decree now. Smash the record. Do not let yesterday's grooves dictate tomorrow's song. Declare aloud that every untrue record is broken, erased, returned to the dust, and that new records of joy, health, and wealth are being written by your word. The subconscious will obey, for it always yields to the stronger impression, and the strongest impression is always the spoken word of faith. And remember this: once the old records are smashed, fill the silence at once, with new music. Do not leave the grooves empty, for they will only invite the old song back. Speak your new affirmations, sing your new decrees. Let your life be filled with words of victory until the subconscious is saturated with the melody of success. For the wall of old records can indeed be broken, and when it is, the way is clear for miracles to flow unhindered. And now, after resentment has been dissolved, fear cast out, and old records shattered, there remains one final act to bring the walls down completely: the shout of triumph. For there are times when quiet affirmations will not do, when the wall is thick and stubborn, and it must be shaken by the thunder of a voice that proclaims victory before it is seen. In the next part, I will show you the power of the triumphant shout and how it brings miracles rushing into sight. Now we come to the climactic act that breaks down the last defenses of lack, the final blow that sends every fortress of delay tumbling into dust. It is the shout of triumph. Many souls speak their affirmations quietly, and that has its place, for there are seasons when a whisper carries power. But there are also seasons when the wall is too thick, too ancient, too stubborn to yield to soft words, and then the decree must be thundered. The soul must lift its voice in a cry of victory so mighty that it shakes the very foundations of the obstacle. This is not shouting in desperation, not wailing in fear, but proclaiming in joy that the battle is already won, that the good is already here, that the miracle is already accomplished. It is the shout of triumph that topples Jericho, the shout that sends walls crashing flat, the shout that silences doubt and ushers in victory. The Bible tells us that the Israelites marched around Jericho once each day for 6 days, and on the 7th day they circled it 7 times. Then, at the sound of the trumpet, they lifted up a great shout, and the walls fell flat. Why a shout? Because the wall symbolized the hardened conditions of life, the stubborn obstacles that reasoning and effort cannot move. Only the vibration of faith, released with force and joy, could shatter it. That story is not ancient history. It is a living pattern. Every Jericho in your life, every debt, every sickness, every closed door, every long delay will fall when you lift your voice in the shout of triumph. I remember a woman who came to me weighed down by endless hindrances. Every time she moved forward, something blocked her way. She affirmed, she prepared, she gave thanks, but still the walls stood tall. At last I said to her, "You are whispering when you should be shouting. Declare aloud. The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land, under grace, in perfect ways. Do not murmur it. Shout it until your very bones vibrate with the power of it." She obeyed. She stood in her room, lifted her voice, and shouted until the walls seemed to shake. Within days, hindrances vanished, channels opened, and opportunities flowed to her in abundance. Her shout of triumph had broken the spell, and her good rushed in. Why does the shout carry such power? Because it is the ultimate proof of faith. To rejoice before you see the answer is to prove you know the answer is already here. To laugh before the walls have fallen is to show you trust they are already dust. The universe responds to such certainty with swift obedience. The shout lifts your vibration to joy, and joy is the magnet that draws miracles instantly. So I ask you now, what Jericho walls loom before you? What debts rise like fortresses? What delays tower like stone barriers? Do not circle them forever in silence. Lift your voice, shout your decree. Proclaim with joy, the walls of lack and delay now crumble away. I walk into my promised land, under grace and in perfect ways. Shout it until your whole being thrills with the victory, until you see in your mind the walls cracking, the stones falling, the dust rising, and soon you will see it with your eyes, for the law never fails the triumphant soul. Transition to Section 4. And now, with the walls fallen and the land open, a new question arises. How will you know which path to take, which door to enter, which step to choose? Reason will argue, logic will confuse, but there is a higher guide, a compass that never errs. It is the still small voice of intuition, the divine whisper within that always leads straight to your good. In the next section, I will show you how to hear this voice, how to trust it, and how to let it guide you to miracles in 24 hours. Now that the walls have fallen, the land lies wide before you. Opportunities appear like open roads, and yet with so many paths, the question arises, where shall I walk? At such a moment, most turn back to reason, to logic, to the careful calculations of the conscious mind. But let me tell you, reason can only guide you by yesterday's map. It can only measure by what has been, not by what is becoming. Reason sees obstacles where faith sees paths, and if you lean on reason alone, you will circle in detours and delays. What you need now is a higher compass, a voice that never errs, a guide that knows the way before the road even appears. That voice is intuition, the still small voice of spirit within you. Intuition does not shout, it whispers. It does not argue, it knows. It will not show you the whole journey at once, but it will always show you the next step. And when you obey, the next step appears, and the next, until suddenly you stand at the place of your miracle and look back to see how perfectly you were led. I have seen men reason themselves into ruin, and I have seen them obey intuition into prosperity. I have watched women delay their blessings for years by questioning the voice, and I have watched them walk straight into abundance when they dared to follow it without hesitation. There was once a businessman whose affairs were entangled in difficulty. He had gone to the bank to seek a loan, but his request was denied. Disappointed, he walked away, reasoning that the matter was finished. Yet as he stepped onto the street, a quiet voice within him said, "Go back." His reason protested. Why return? They have already said no. But the inner voice repeated, firm and gentle, go back now. At last, against his own logic, he obeyed. When he re-entered, he discovered that in the very moment he had turned away, new instructions had come, and the loan was granted without delay. Had he trusted reason, he would have lost his supply. By trusting intuition, he walked straight into his demonstration. Do you see the difference? Reason will always ask, why? Intuition simply says, this way. Reason demands evidence. Intuition already knows the end from the beginning. Reason hesitates. Intuition is certain. That is why the prophet said, thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, this is the way, walk ye in it. It is not the clamor of the world's voices, but the quiet certainty within that leads to your miracle. So I ask you now, are you listening? Do you quiet yourself enough to hear that gentle nudge, that sudden knowing, that whisper in the silence? Or are you letting reason drown it out with arguments, doubts, and fears? Begin today to cultivate the ear of intuition. Each morning declare, I am divinely sensitive to my intuitive leads. I follow them without hesitation, for they are the voice of God guiding my path. Say it until you feel yourself attuned to the whisper within. And soon you will find your steps guided with such accuracy that you will marvel. You will meet the right person at the right time, take the right turn at the right moment, find yourself in the right place as though by accident, but it will not be accident. It will be obedience to the still small voice, the compass that never errs. And yet, it is not enough to hear the comparting. The voice, you must obey it. Many hear, but few follow. They delay, they argue, they resist, and so they miss their miracle. In the next part, I will show you how quick obedience unlocks doors no man can shut, and how every act of compliance multiplies your blessings. It is one thing to hear the still small voice, and quite another to obey it. Many souls confess to me that they sense the nudge, they feel the whisper, they know in their hearts what must be done, and yet they delay. They hesitate, they argue, they question, they postpone, and in that delay, the miracle slips away. The inner voice does not force, it invites. It will not shout or demand. It will simply say, this is the way. And if you walk in it, the path opens. If you refuse, the moment passes. That is why I say to you with all urgency, obedience must be quick. The longer you wait, the louder reason grows. The stronger doubt becomes, the weaker faith feels. Delay is disobedience in disguise, and disobedience always closes the door to supply. Think of the parable often told of the man caught in a flood. He prayed, God, save me. Soon a rowboat came, but he waved it away, saying, no, God will save me. Then a motorboat came, but again he refused. At last a helicopter hovered above, but still he declined, insisting he was waiting for divine rescue. At last the waters swept him away, and when he arrived in the hereafter, he cried, Lord, why did you not save me? And the Lord replied, I sent you a rowboat, a motorboat, and a helicopter, but you would not obey. The moral is plain. The answer often comes in ordinary form, through channels that look mundane, and intuition will point you to them. But if you do not obey, you cannot receive. I knew a student who longed for supply. She prayed and affirmed, but nothing moved. One day, she felt impressed to visit a certain shop. She resisted, saying, I have no reason to go there. Yet, the voice persisted. At last, she obeyed, and in that very shop, she met the person who opened the channel of her prosperity. Had she ignored the nudge, the meeting would never have occurred. Her quick obedience unlocked the door. Do not despise the little leads. If the voice says, turn here, turn. If it says, wait, wait. If it says, call, call. You may not see the reason in the moment, but you will see it afterward, and you will marvel at the precision of divine timing. The universe is like a grand orchestra, and intuition is the conductor's baton. Every player moves in harmony when you obey, and the music of your life flows in perfect rhythm. But the one who ignores the baton brings discord upon himself. So I ask you, how many miracles have been delayed in your life because you hesitated? How many doors have stayed shut because you argued? How many blessings have passed you by because you postponed? Begin today to declare, I am quick to hear and swift to obey. I do not argue, I do not delay, I do not resist. I act at once, knowing that every lead brings me closer to my good. Speak it until it becomes your nature, until obedience feels as natural as breathing. For every moment of quick obedience multiplies your blessings. And now, let us look deeper still. For intuition is not only a voice to be heard and obeyed, but a symbol woven into the very stories that shaped our childhood. The fairy tales we thought were fantasies are, in truth, parables of the soul. Let me show you how the tale of Cinderella reveals the mystery of the fairy godmother within your own intuition dressed in story form, the inner guide who waves the wand that transforms ashes into beauty, rags into riches, delay into demonstration. Since childhood, we have listened to fairy tales, thinking them mere amusements, pleasant stories spun for children, yet within those tales lie the deepest truths of the spirit, clothed in symbols so simple even the youngest mind can grasp them. One of the most enduring of these stories is the tale of Cinderella. To the casual ear, it is only a fable of a poor girl in rags who is lifted to glory, but to the listening soul, it is a parable of the superconscious mind, of intuition, of the divine imagination that transforms ashes into beauty and delay into demonstration. Cinderella herself is the picture of the soul under bondage. The rags are the old records of failure. The ashes are the sorrows of past defeats. The cruel stepmother and envious sisters are the thoughts of resentment, self-pity, and fear that mock and scorn the higher self. Yet just when the situation seems most hopeless, when all that remains is servitude and sorrow, the fairy godmother appears. And who is she? She is the voice within, the higher self, the Christ consciousness, the still small voice of spirit that knows nothing of rags and ashes but sees only the royal robe, the radiant beauty, the divine design. Notice how the fairy godmother does her work. She does not argue with the stepsisters, she does not debate with the stepmother, she does not try to reason Cinderella into joy. She waves her wand, and in an instant, the pumpkin becomes a golden carriage, the mice become prancing horses, the rags become a gown of glory, and the girl of ashes shines forth as the princess she always was. This is precisely how intuition works. It does not reason, it does not argue, it does not explain. It transforms. It takes what seems common and makes it divine. It takes what seems worthless and reveals its hidden worth. It takes what seems impossible and clothes it with glory. And when intuition is obeyed, when the voice within is trusted, the transformation is as swift as the wave of a wand. But the tale also carries a warning. The godmother says, "At midnight the spell will break." What is midnight? It is the return to the old state of consciousness. It is the moment when doubt creeps back in, when the soul says, "It was only a dream," when faith falters and the old records begin to play again. Many of my students have seen the light for a moment, felt the thrill of their miracle, walked for a short season in joy, and then let the clock strike 12. They return to their ashes, their rags, their old stories, and they sigh, "It was not real." And so the carriage turns back into a pumpkin, the horses into mice, the gown into tatters. The miracle is lost because the vision was not held. But notice too that the glass slipper remains. Even when the gown is gone, the slipper endures. That slipper is the seed of faith, the permanent impression, the proof that the transformation was not a dream, but a revelation of what is truly yours. And the prince, symbol of your heart's desire, will not rest until he finds the one whose foot fits the slipper. Your good is seeking you, even as you are seeking it. It is drawn to you by the perfect fit of divine design. No rival can wear your slipper, no counterfeit can claim your blessing. Your good will knock at your door, carrying the proof in hand, and it will place the slipper upon your foot and declare, "You are the one." So I ask you now, are you ready to trust your fairy godmother within? Are you ready to let intuition wave its wand over your life, to turn your ashes into beauty, your rags into robes, your pumpkin into a golden carriage? Say aloud, "The Christ within me is my fairy godmother. She waves her wand of truth, and I am clothed in abundance, lifted into joy, and carried into my destiny, under grace and in perfect ways." Speak it until you feel the transformation begin, until the rags of doubt fall away, until the ashes of delay are swept aside, until you stand clothed in the gown of your true estate. Transition to Section 5, And now, having heard the voice, obeyed its leads, and trusted the godmother within, you are ready for the final step: dominion. For intuition may guide you to the door, but it is your word, spoken with authority and joy, that opens it wide. Dominion is the crown of the law, the royal decree of the tongue that calls your miracle into sight. In the next section, I will show you how to wield your word as a wand, how to set planets in motion with your speech, and how to rule your world with joyful command. Now we stand at the highest place in the whole lesson, the summit where every road has been leading, the crowning truth that holds the key to dominion. It is this: your word is your wand. With the tongue, you wave the invisible scepter of command. With the spoken decree, you shape the unseen substance into visible form. Every word you utter carries vibration. Every phrase you pronounce sends forth a creative force. Every declaration you make sets in motion unseen powers that hasten to obey. Many imagine their words to be idle, tossed into the air and forgotten, but the truth is that no word is ever lost. Every syllable becomes seed, every phrase becomes pattern, every utterance returns to you with its harvest. The world you live in today is nothing more or less than the fruit of the words you spoke yesterday. I knew a woman who came to me trembling, with only $2 in her purse. She said, "What can I do with this?" "It is not enough," I answered. "It is never the amount that matters, but the words spoken over it. Do not call it little, do not despise it, for what you bless will increase, and what you curse will decrease. Take these $2 and speak this decree: I bless this money, and it multiplies. It is divinely magnetized and draws to me supply from every direction. My purse is crammed, jammed, and overflowing under grace in perfect ways." She obeyed. She spoke the word with joy and released $1 as a gift, proving her faith in the law. Soon after, an unexpected channel opened, and she received $6,000. The $2 had not changed themselves, but the words spoken over them had acted as a wand, drawing forth a demonstration beyond her asking. Another time, a fog had settled thick over the sea, delaying every vessel, blinding every direction. A woman, remembering the law, spoke aloud: "There are no fogs in divine mind. The sun now shines. I give thanks that the fog is lifted." Almost immediately, the mist dissolved, and the sun broke through. Nature itself had obeyed the wand of the word. If fog and sea and sky must answer to the spoken decree, shall not money answer? Shall not opportunity? Shall not every closed door swing open when commanded by the word of faith? But mark this well. The wand does not work in the hands of doubt. The parrot who repeats affirmations without conviction will see no demonstration. It is not the sound alone, but the spirit behind the sound, the faith behind the phrase, the certainty behind the syllable that gives the word its force. When you speak as a beggar, pleading for what you do not believe is yours, the universe does not move. But when you speak as a ruler, declaring what already exists in the mind of God and must now appear in form, heaven and earth hasten to obey. Speak not as one wishing, but as one knowing. Speak not as one asking, but as one commanding. Speak not as one hoping, but as one possessing. So I ask you now, what wand are you wielding? Are you waving words of lack, saying, "I never have enough, I always fail, I am unlucky"? Then your wand is striking down your own harvest, and your life will reflect it. Or are you waving words of dominion, saying, "I am divinely supplied, I am abundantly prosperous. My every need is met now, under grace and in perfect ways"? Then your wand is opening treasure houses, and your life will reflect that as well. You cannot speak without creating, and you cannot create without reaping. Therefore, watch your words as a king watches his decrees. Do not let one phrase escape your lips that you do not wish to see manifested. Guard your speech as you would guard your fortune, for indeed it is your fortune. And remember this, above all, your word is your wand, and when you wave it with faith, miracles follow as surely as the dawn follows the night. And now that you see the word as a wand, let us look deeper into how each word you speak travels outward like a planet set into orbit, circling through the heavens and returning to you laden with the harvest of its kind. For no word vanishes into nothingness, all words go forth and come back, carrying the form of what they declared. Let me now show you the mystery of words as planetary orbits. Every word you speak is not a passing breath, not a sound that fades into silence, but a body of substance, a planet flung from your tongue into the vast heavens of mind. Once released, it begins its orbit, circling unseen realms, drawing to itself the very essence of what was spoken, and in due season it swings back into your life, carrying its harvest. Some words shine like suns, radiant with blessing, filled with light, destined to return with joy and abundance. Other words are dark as meteors, heavy with fear, charged with bitterness, destined to crash back upon your affairs with ruin. The law is exact. You cannot speak without sending forth these planets, and you cannot escape their return, for the orbit is faithful and unerring. This is why Scripture declares, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it." That is not poetry, it is law. Words go forth and return, never void, never empty, always laden with the fruit of their decree. When you say, "I am sick," you have sent forth a dark planet, and it circles back with sickness. When you say, "I am poor," you have launched a heavy meteor, and it returns with poverty. When you say, "I am prosperous," you send out a shining star, and it returns with gold and supply. When you say, "I am healed," you set a radiant orb in motion, and it returns with wholeness. Your skies are filled with these words, made planets, circling above, destined to reappear in your life in their appointed time. I recall a student who for years lamented, "Everything goes wrong for me." It was her favorite phrase, spoken daily, half in jest, half in sorrow. But the subconscious does not jest, it only obeys. She had filled her heavens with dark planets of failure, and they returned again and again until her whole life seemed to prove her words true. When she learned the law, I told her, "You must change your orbit, send forth new planets. Declare, everything goes right for me, doors fly open, channels are clear. My life is filled with good, under grace, in perfect ways." Speak it until the heavens are filled with these new orbs, and watch them return with blessings. She obeyed, and in time the old planets of failure burned out, the new orbs of success appeared, and her life became a sky of stars instead of storms. Even the old legends carry this truth. Think of Ali Baba, standing before the mountains sealed with stone. No force of hammer could break it, no key could turn its lock, no effort could move it. Yet when he cried, "Open sesame," the great door rolled back, and treasure beyond measure lay revealed. That story endures because it is the picture of the spoken word as a planet. The phrase went forth, circled the unseen law, and returned by rolling back the door. Every time you speak, you are saying your own "open sesame," and the door it opens will always match the word you sent. So I ask you, what words are filling your heavens today? Are they words of fear, complaint, envy, and lack? Then your skies are crowded with dark orbs that will surely return. Or are they words of blessing, joy, prosperity, and health? Then your skies are filled with radiant stars that must come back with abundance. You choose the planets by your speech, and your future is the orbit of your words. Therefore, be deliberate. Send forth only words you wish to see return. Do not speak idly, do not curse yourself in jest, do not throw into the heavens planets you would dread to meet again. Speak with intention, bless with your tongue, decree with joy, and you will populate your heavens with worlds of light, and when they return, your life will shine as a galaxy of miracles. And now that you see your words as planets circling back to you, let me give you the very decrees, the affirmations of dominion that you can launch into orbit today. These are the words that never fail, the royal commands that shatter walls, dissolve debts, multiply money, and open doors. Let us now speak of affirmations of dominion. Now we come to the royal language of spirit, the words that carry not the weakness of begging but the majesty of decree, not the doubt of hope but the certainty of dominion. These are affirmations of power, affirmations of command, affirmations that speak as though the thing desired were already here because in truth it already is. When you speak such words, you do not plead with heaven, you do not bargain with fate, you do not attempt to twist the arm of destiny. You sit upon your throne as a king sits upon his throne, and you issue decrees that the universe must obey. For your word is law in your own world, and when you speak with authority, the unseen hastens to clothe itself in the form you have declared. But here is the mystery that many miss. An affirmation spoken as a wish carries no power. An affirmation spoken as a decree carries all power. If you say, I hope supply will come, the law hears only uncertainty and delivers delay. If you say, I am afraid I may fail, the law hears the decree of failure and hastens to fulfill it. But if you stand and say, I now draw from the abundance of the spheres my immediate supply, all channels are free, all doors are open. Infinite Spirit is never too late, never too soon, but always on time, then the law bows to your command and sets in motion the forces of heaven and earth to deliver it. I have seen affirmations work wonders when spoken with authority. One woman who faced endless delays declared daily, the walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace and in perfect ways. She spoke it, not in weariness but in triumph, and soon every hindrance dissolved. Another who lived in constant want declared, I am linked with an endless golden stream of prosperity which comes to me under grace, in perfect ways. At first, she felt foolish, for her purse was empty. But as she continued, her subconscious accepted the decree, and soon unexpected money appeared, opportunities opened, and her stream began to flow. Here, then, are affirmations of dominion that I charge you to send forth as planets into orbit, to return laden with miracles. I am divinely abundant. My supply is endless, immediate, and certain. I am provided for now, under grace and in perfect ways. What God has done for others, He now does for me and more. My portion is secure. No one can take what is mine by divine right, and what is not mine I release in peace. Every barrier crumbles, every door flies open, every channel is clear. My good rushes to me now, and I receive it with joy. I stand fearless and free, for God is my shield, my supply, my fortress, my joy. Nothing can oppose the law of my good. Speak these not as though you are trying to make them true, but as though they are eternally true and you are merely proclaiming them into visibility. Let them roll from your lips with joy, with triumph, with laughter even, for joy is the force that accelerates the law. The universe moves swiftly for the one who rejoices. So I ask you, will you speak as a beggar, or will you speak as a ruler? Will you mutter weakly in doubt, or will you decree boldly in faith? The choice is always yours, and your life will prove which choice you have made. But know this, when you speak affirmations of dominion with conviction and joy, the law cannot delay, the universe cannot resist, and your good must appear. And yet there is one more jewel to crown it all. For dominion is not grim, it is not heavy, it is not toil. Dominion is joy. The final secret is that your decrees must be spoken not with strain but with delight, not with dread but with laughter, not as labor but as play. In the next part, I will show you the art of joyful command and how it draws miracles more swiftly than any solemn effort could ever do. Now we arrive at the crown of crowns, the final secret that transforms the practice of dominion from labor into delight, from burden into song, from grim repetition into radiant demonstration. It is this: the law answers more swiftly to joy than to effort. Dominion is not meant to be heavy, it is meant to be light. It is not a solemn duty but a triumphant game, not a weary duty pressed upon the soul but a song of freedom flowing from the heart. Many make the mistake of turning affirmations into toil. They recite them with strained faces and clenched jaws, as though they were hammering at a locked door. But the law is not moved by strain, it is moved by joy. It is not impressed by effort, it is impressed by delight. The universe does not obey the voice of fear masquerading as persistence. It rushes to serve the soul that laughs as it commands. I remember a student who came to me weary from constant affirmations. She said, Florence, I say my words hour by hour, but nothing changes. I looked at her and saw that her affirmations were dripping with anxiety, saturated with fear, heavy with doubt. I told her, you are not speaking affirmations, you are broadcasting your worry in rhythm. You must learn to speak as a victor, not as a beggar. You must say your words with the laughter of one who already possesses the blessing. She obeyed. She began to sing her affirmations to the tune of hymns. She clapped her hands as she spoke them. She laughed as though the miracle were already in her grasp. And almost at once, the tide turned. Within days, doors opened, opportunities appeared, and her face shone with peace. Why? Because joy had given wings to her words, and the law rushed to perform them. Do you see the principle? Joy is the proof of faith. When you rejoice before the harvest appears, you declare that you already know the harvest is yours. When you sing before the walls have fallen, you prove that you already see them as dust. When you laugh before the money arrives, you show that you already count it in your purse, and the universe cannot resist such faith. It hastens to make visible what you already celebrate as complete. This is why Scripture so often commands, "Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud." The song comes before the child, the laughter before the harvest, the shout before the victory. The joy is the seed, and the manifestation is the fruit. When you speak your decrees with joy, you fertilize them with the richest substance of the soul, and they spring up swiftly into demonstration. So I ask you, how are you speaking your affirmations? Are they heavy with effort or light with laughter? Are they recited as weary chores or proclaimed as songs of triumph? Begin today to speak with joy. Say aloud, "I now draw from the abundance of the spheres my immediate supply," and then laugh as though your purse were already spilling over. Declare, "The walls of lack and delay crumble away," and then clap your hands as though you already walk into your promised land. Affirm, "My word is law, my supply is sure, and miracles rush to meet me now," and then sing as though the miracle were already in your house. This is the art of joyful command, and it is the swiftest path to demonstration. For the law is faithful, but joy is its accelerant. Dominion is certain, but laughter hastens its steps. Speak with joy, command with delight, decree with laughter, and you will find your miracles arriving not in delay but in speed, not in struggle but in song, not in sorrow but in rejoicing. And now, beloved, we have reached the end of this great journey. You have seen the guard at the gate, the ledger of the subconscious, the power of impression, the trick of the word. You have learned to prepare in expectancy, to break resentment, to cast out fear, to smash the old records, to shout the walls down. You have followed the compass of intuition, trusted the fairy godmother within, and at last taken up the wand of your word, sending planets into orbit, decreeing affirmations of dominion, and crowning it all with joyful command. Now let us seal this teaching with a closing decree and open the way to the greater mysteries still to come. Beloved, we have walked together step by step through the hidden law that brings miracles not in years, not in months, not even in weeks, but in 24 hours. You have seen that life is not governed by chance or luck, but by the word spoken in faith. You have seen how the conscious mind acts as a guard, questioning and resisting, and how the subconscious faithfully records every decree. You have learned that impressions paint stronger commands than logic, and that one word done tricks the guard into silence and plants the seed as finished. You have learned to act in expectancy, to dig your ditches, to bless your little and watch it multiply, to buy your blankets and your trunks as acts of prophecy. You have torn down the hidden walls of resentment, smashed the grooves of old records, shouted your victory until Jericho fell, and then followed the compass of intuition, that still small voice which never errs. You have discovered the fairy godmother within, the higher self that transforms ashes into beauty, and at last you have taken up your wand, your tongue, to speak decrees that set planets in orbit, to proclaim affirmations of dominion, and to crown it all with joyful command. So now, let us seal this lesson with a decree that cannot be broken. Say it with me, not as a beggar but as a ruler, not with strain but with joy, not as one pleading for a distant future, but as one declaring the present reality. It is done. The walls of lack and delay crumble away, my miracle appears swiftly. I walk in my promised land now, under grace and in perfect ways. My word is law, my supply is sure, and miracles rush to meet me today. Say it until you feel it, until you see it, until you know it, for the knowing is the demonstration. And yet, I must tell you, miracles are only the beginning. They are not the end of the journey, but the first door of it. Beyond the law of quick supply lies another secret, a greater mystery still. There is a hidden door not to a single miracle, but to your entire destiny. A door that, when opened, reveals not only riches but perfect self-expression, not only supply but purpose, not only demonstrations but the divine design of your whole life. Without it, even miracles can turn to dust. With it, every part of life blooms in harmony. So do not stop here. You have spoken the word, you have seen the law, you have tasted the miracle. Now step further. Click here for my next teaching, the secret door to your divine success. For behind that door lies the treasure house, that money alone cannot buy the pattern of your perfect work, your perfect place, your perfect joy. Let us walk through it together, for your destiny awaits.